Hey gang, it is December 7th today. Little snow on the ground here. December 7th, a day that will live in infamy. Anyway, we're in a little town called Gregory, Michigan. We're about 65 miles west of Detroit. And there's a little cemetery on the left coming up here called Williamsville. And it is the cemetery where two young children are buried that met with a terrible tragedy together. And we're going to see if we can find their graves. I don't think it's going to be too hard, and I'm glad to know that they're upright stones with the snow on the ground, so we shouldn't have too much trouble. And we are in. Well, a very, very sad story today. Every parent's worst nightmare. For sure. Your children, brother and sister, are out playing together with a friend. It is winter, and the ice is formed on the lakes, and you have your sled, and you're just fancy free, not a care in the world. We've all done it. The sled, right? Sledding, the new snow, but the new ice. The new ice is dangerous, and it would take their lives, very sadly. It was Max, 8 years old, and his older sister, Johanna Spranger, or I think it's Sprangers with an S, I'm not sure. I've seen it both different ways. We'll see what it says at the grave or graves. But they were out sledding with a friend, and they decided to go out on the lake. And of course, the ice had just formed. They apparently didn't know the danger. And Maxie and his sister were on the sled being pulled by a friend. And he was running along, and they probably went out to the middle. And the ice just gave way. They all went down through the ice. Now, the boy that was pulling the sled, I'll read the article. We'll repeat some of the story when we get to the grave. The graves of the brother and sister are buried here. This beautiful, tiny cemetery with some amazing stones, and I will tell you that the boy that was pulling the sled managed to crawl out of the water and shimmy himself probably on his belly. I mean, that's what you want to do, is spread your weight out, and was able to make it to shore while the other two were struggling. And he did the right thing. He ran several blocks to get help. I mean, he was in no position to help. You really can't do anything in a situation like that. I mean, you have people that go out to try to save their dogs, and they all die. Hypothermia sets in. And speaking of hypothermia, by the time they got back with rescuers, the Maxie and Johanna had succumbed. I don't know if they were able to get their bodies there or if they sunk and had to get them later, but they were drowned, very sadly. So, right up ahead here, by this bench, and I'm going to bet that a lot of people come here to visit their graves, and their original gravestones are here. because this bench is, well, it's a nice bench, and it looks like a park bench, park district kind of bench. Anyway, people can sit here. There's their two stones. They're buried right here. Maxie on the left, Sprangers with an S, and Johanna on the right. So let's take a look at the stones up close. (1922). That's when it happened. Like I said, every parent's worst nightmare. Just tragic. Some purple flowers here for them. Johanna, 1914 and 1923. So sad. And I can tell you the parents, no doubt, were just devastated. Second guessing themselves. What could we have done? Shouldn't we have warned them? Stay off the lakes. I remember when I was little, my dad, don't go near the river under any circumstance. We lived right by the river there. And I never went. I'll read to you the article, and I'll put the article up. And as I do so, I will also show the picture of Maxie, and Johanna in death. We're here also because this is kind of a famous grave, because there's a famous post-mortem picture of the both of them laid out. But the article says, thin ice fatal to 2 Williamsville children. So maybe Gregory, maybe this is Williamsville attached to Gregory, or maybe it was called Williamsville back then. Maybe you guys can help me here in comments. But anyway, it says, Max and Johanna Spranger were drowned Saturday. Max Spranger and his sister Johanna, aged 8 and 10 years respectively, were drowned in the Williamsville Mill Pond near Gregory. Well, there you go. Last Saturday afternoon, the children were playing on the ice with a sled when the accident happened, and Earl Carr, age 9, was drawing the sled on which the Spranger children, it says Spranger in the article, Sprangers, children were riding. And the ice broke, and all fell through the ice. The car boy managed to crawl to safety and ran 2 blocks to the village for help, but when the scene of the accident was reached, the 2 children were dead. The boy and the girl were the only children of Mr. and Mrs. Leo Sprangers, and it is said the mother has been prostrate since the accident. A double funeral was held Tuesday afternoon at the home of the parents, with the burial in the Williamsville Cemetery. So we've seen this before, the pictures, you know, in those days, either laid out like the kids were, or people in their coffins or caskets were in the parlor, typically, before the burial. There weren't many funeral homes back then, I guess, but that was the custom, as it was for the Sprangers. Such a sad story here. I was glad to get out here to see them and pay respects. And God knows I can share in the grief, having been through the loss of a child in an accident like of any kind. It's indescribable. So rest in peace, Maxie and Johanna.